Well, this is the post-bye week chalk talk for the Seahawks, getting back on the field, and there were a lot of good offensive plays. And as Pete Carroll said to us on Monday, sitting down with him at the VMAC, when he started to watch that tape, he couldn't sleep on the long plane ride home, and he kept bugging Darrell Bevell like, man, this was great, and this component was great. And there were a lot of elements. There were a whole bunch of plays over the course of that game, some 71 plays for the Seahawks, where there was really good execution. There were a number of plays where, unfortunately, either penalties and false starts, a holding call, a couple drops, a misfire on a deep shot to Doug Baldwin. There were enough plays to hold the Seahawks back just enough so that actually midway through the third quarter, as much as they were dominating time of possession and play count, they were actually behind 7-3. And this chalk talk's a little different. You know, it's still players, formations, plays. It's still getting into a formation where Doug Baldwin is going to have the opportunity and the space to make the big play, the touchdown, what ends up the touchdown versus cover zero. But as much of players, formations, plays, this one, and why I picked this one, is because of the chess match. To me, this really, as you kind of dig into it and tear it apart, this was much more about the chess match of Darrell Bevell, offense coordinator Seahawks, versus Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator the Giants, a guy that likes to blitz and likes to pressure, and making sure that Bevell gives Russell Wilson a whole bunch of options. This is 2nd and goal from the 22, had one of those negative plays that set them back. And I bet if you studied 100 plays in the NFL of 2nd and extra long, I bet out of 100, 90 of them are going to be run plays or very conservative passing plays, a quick game to try to get some yardage to give yourself a manageable third down. 90% of the time, that's what you're going to see. And 90% of the time, defensively, they're going to be in a zone or a very soft coverage, trying to keep everything in front, thinking the other guy is going to take the 5 or 6 yards, and it will still be 3rd and 10 plus or 15 plus, an advantage to the defense. But that was not the case in this situation on either side. Darrell Bevell did get to a play with a lot of built-in options. This is one of their empty concepts, 5-man, and gets Jimmy Graham out into space, something that you have seen a little bit more over the last few weeks, well documented by the number of snaps where he's not attached to the line but detached as a receiver. So they get into empty. Jimmy's just going to be on a little in route, and McKissic's going to be on a little angle route, something they hit actually on a 3rd down later in the game to close it out down in the red zone. So pretty simple concept with a couple good options here. If Russell were to get zone coverage and they were soft, he could go that way. On this side, it's just some of their vertical game. And I'm going to get to Doug here in just a moment. So that's all baked in for Darrell Bevell, and he feels like, okay, 2nd and goal, I've got good options. I've got some easy completions here if they play zone coverage to get it to that 3rd and manageable. But Spagnuolo on the other side says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that for 2 reasons. Number one, at the 22-yard line, I'm going to bring some pressure to try to knock them possibly out of field goal range with a negative play or a sack, or force Russell to throw the ball away. And number 2, I don't expect them to necessarily take a shot in this situation. So he brings the all-out blitz, and there's nobody. And there is nobody in the middle of the field. And James Lofton got this one right during the broadcast. This is that casino, rolling the dice, the cover zero look with no safety, and Russell sees it the entire way. And this is where some of the little magic of this play is. And maybe a few years ago, frankly, before Russell had seen all these blitzes and had every look thrown his way, you know, maybe he goes about this a little differently. Maybe he audibles. Maybe he makes a little check. Maybe he does something to trigger the Giants to get out of this blitz, and you don't see that at all. This is a case study in, oh man, I really hope you play this cover zero. This is a case study in why Russell is the number 2 rated passer in the league versus the blitz. This is a case study in what Peyton and Tom and Ben and all those elite quarterbacks do in Aaron Rodgers versus blitz. Instead of any level of panic, instead of being triggered to show that defense, oh, okay, I'm going to check, I'm going to bring Jimmy in, I'm going to get to a protection to block it. Nope. He says, please play cover zero. Please indeed bring this pressure, and they do. They bring all 4 of those guys. A linebacker's going to come rush to cover here, and they're going to bring the 2 extra coming. So you actually have 1 more coming and can be picked up here by the offensive line. But number 3 knows it, and there's no panic. He retreats a couple yards. Actually, the blitzer's going to come around this way. He's the unblocked guy. He doesn't get within 5 yards because Russell sees it, he reads it, he recognizes it, he knows exactly what he has and what he wants. And what he wants is Doug Baldwin with the elite quickness, some of the best releases in the game on a quarterback a bigger cornerback that at this point of his career is going to be better when he can get his hands on people, but that is hard to do with number 89. And with Doug off the ball, another little secret, another little tiny detail in this, with him off the ball, he's able to make this move, and he's right down the middle of the field. Number 3 sees it. He doesn't flinch. He throws a perfect ball to Doug for the touchdown. And before Landon can come off of Jimmy Graham and make a collision in the end zone, the Seahawks get the big play. They get the lead. They get a payoff down near the red zone, and they get their quarterback attacking the blitz as he's done all year. You keep doing this, you're going to see very little of this cover zero and more opportunities to get into rhythm.